Good afternoon, Thomas and Shane.
Afternoon.
How are you guys?
Excellent for Monday, thank you.
Awesome, awesome.
Doing pretty well there in Perth. It's nice and sunny. It's good.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, guys. So let's kick start it. Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to One Stop Warehouse's Solar Training Session Week 4. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Ramzi Shamali, and I'm from the Tech Department at One Stop Warehouse. I'm very excited today to host a webinar with leading solar equipment manufacturers Sunman Energy and Delta. For those of you who don't know already, One Stop Warehouse is a proud wholesale distributor of whole-of-system solar equipment, including a large and diverse range of panels, inverters, batteries, manning systems, BOS equipment, and many more electrical equipment. To learn more about One Stop Warehouse, our events, promos, and product range, I highly recommend pulling out your phone and scanning the QR code at the end of this webinar and giving us a like and follow on Facebook and LinkedIn to keep up to date. And also highly recommend exploring our website to understand our range of products. I'm also excited to announce an upcoming program called One Stop Trivia Live that One Stop Warehouse will be delivering in the month of September. This is a great way to relax after a hard day's work and have some fun meeting industry experts, learning and staying in the loop with key industry stakeholders. I will play you a quick little trailer now. Just bear with me. So this is our social media platforms. As I said, feel free to give us a follow. It's really good to understand our range of products. And if you have any questions, feel free to call us or reach out to our account managers. And now I'll play the trailer. So there it is. This is a really good way to tune in. You can even tune in with your mobile phone. So it's very easy and seamless to connect. So I highly recommend that if you feel like it. And also a quick reminder for next week, we'll be hosting week 5 and we will host the manufacturers FEMA, Solus and Greenbox. 65 plus CBD points up for grabs. So if you're interested in these manufacturers, register on our website or our social media platforms. And now I'd like to introduce our panelists, guests for today's webinar presentations, starting off with Sunman Energy and Delta. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, please?
I'll let you go first, Thomas.
Thanks, mate. Thomas Bell from Sunman Energy. I'm the sales director.
I'm Shane Arnold from Delta Electronics Australia. I take care of PVI and small energy storage and take care of the Australia, New Zealand and Islands area.
Awesome. Great to have you on the show. So basically, guys, feel free to ask any questions that you brainstorm or arise during the presentations and put it down below in the comment box, or alternatively, put it up in the Q&A panel and they'll be answered promptly. Yeah, so without further ado, Thomas, why don't you get to your presentation and share your screen.
All right, can we see that?
Perfect, yep.
All right, well, let's get into it. eArche, doing more with less. So today in the presentation, I'll cover 3 main areas: a brief introduction to our panel and technology, address the markets that this new technology will open up, and we'll spend a bit of time on the new installation process that our product requires. So in the last 40 years, solar panels have remained unchanged. Yes, they're a little bit more efficient, a little bit cheaper, but primarily they've been built the same way for 40 years. Thick aluminium frame, a glass top, and a plastic EVA and back sheet. A conventional 60 cell panel weighs 20 kilos, but if you actually weigh the cells themselves, the cells only weigh 720 grams. So when you buy your standard 60 cell solar panel, you're buying 19 kilos of packaging. Likewise, the thickness, a standard solar panel is approximately 40 millimeters thick, whereas the cell is only 0.5 of a millimeter thick. So again, conventional solar panels are big, bulky, heavy, and pretty much you're buying packaging rather than generation technology. So our engineers, 4 years ago now, set out a mission. Why does a solar panel have to be built out of glass? Is there efficient and alternative ways for us to look at our new module technology? And the driving force behind that is how do we turn all building skins into the ability of making green renewable energy? So we invented a product called eArche. Stands for Energy Architecture. It has the performance of glass solar panels, so it comes with mono PERC 5 busbar solar cells, but we've replaced the glass. By removing the glass, we're able to take away all the weight and gives us some more product features. So lightweight. Our panels, a 60 cell panel weighs 5 kilos instead of weighing 20 kilos. Leading warranty, because we use the same mono PERC 5 busbar solar cells, you get the same linear power warranty. By removing the glass, the composite material that we use to encapsulate our cells has the same, is semi-flexible. So you can't roll it up and put it in your pocket, but you're able to get some flexibility out of the product. Performance, because we use the same cells as conventional glass panels, you get the same watts per square meter. Aesthetics, our panels made with no glass means there is no light pollution, so there's no reflection of light from the panel. And being only 5 millimeters thick, when we fix to a roof, we are able to create the illusion of integration. So we're able to make a more aesthetically pleasing installation. Installation, well, because our panels are 70% lighter, we're able to reduce time on roof by 40%. And our patented manufacturing process allows us to make panels of different shapes and different sizes. So Sunman in 2018 received investment from Arena through Southern Cross Venture Partners to fast track eArche's launch into the global market. Our panels weigh 3.8 kilos per square meter, whereas conventional glass panels weigh 15 kilos per square meter. Our panels are the first panel ever to pass the same durability test that glass panels must, and that's IEC 61215 2016. And our panels, our installation time, we're seeing a reduction of time on roof by up to 40%. So since 2014, we've got over 50 megawatts installed globally, and in the Australian market, we're now approaching over 2 megawatts. Addressable markets. Because our panels are super thin and super light, we are able to open up two applications where glass panels typically fail. So in the commercial and industrial roofs, 40% of the commercial industrial roofs in the Australian marketplace are not engineered to take the weight or uplift of glass panels. As we've mentioned, glass panels weigh 15 kilos per square meter. So as our commercial rooftop market starts to grow and we start to see 500, 600 megawatt rooftop installations, weight is becoming a major barrier to unlocking more commercial rooftops. A 100 kilowatt system weighs 8 ton. So if you start to put megawatts on the roof, that weight becomes an issue. Another failure point for commercial systems is uplift. As we know, glass panels sit approximately 200 millimeters off the roof. So that provides an uplift force that a lot of structural limitations in the standard commercial and industrial market. So with our new installation method, where we're able to bond panels directly to a roof, we mitigate the uplift forces. GAMP Corp are our structural engineering partner, and we asked them to do a white paper on glass panels that failed structural uplift. So they took a sample size of 20 odd installations, rerun the calculations using our lightweight panel. In all those instances, we were able to pass, whereas glass panels would fail. So in the residential market, we estimate that there's approximately 1.5 gigawatts of new market that our panels can open up, that glass panels cannot address. Expansion of existing capacity. So a lot of residential homes have carports, pergolas, verandas, patios, all these supporting structures that can't take the weight of glass panels. So by using our technology, we're able to open up more of those roofs that cannot be addressed by glass panels. Also in the residential market, we've identified about 25% of the residential market will never buy solar because they think it's ugly. So by having a thin, super lightweight solar panel, by tackling the aesthetics part of that equation, we believe we'll be able to unlock approximately 800 to 900 megawatts in that aesthetic market. In the commercial market, by tackling uplift and weight issues, we estimate that there's approximately 4 gigawatts of roof space out there that cannot be serviced by glass panels. Depending on what report you read, if you look at the full potential of the commercial industrial market, there's anywhere from 35 to 40 gigawatts of available roof space in the commercial market. So this number is still quite conservative. In the agricultural market, as a subsector, think of all the Farmer Joe sheds and barns out there that are built in agricultural market. They are typically engineered to a lighter standard just because of the cost of getting concrete and steel out to some of these remote locations. One of our partners, BlueScope, is a major supplier in that agricultural market. And if you do buy a standard agricultural shed, if you do not specify in the future that you'll be putting solar on, most of these sheds are supplied are not structurally adequate to support a solar system. The C&I market, so that's the factories and large span warehouses. We estimate there's 1.4 gigawatts of potential in that market. And as mentioned, the two main reasons that we solve is, again, weight and uplift. So we unlock those markets. Insulated panels. So growing trend now is for roofs to be built out of sandwich insulated panels, kingspan bondor, where you do not want to be penetrating those roofs. So our non-penetrating installation method will unlock that market. So as part of our ARENA submission in 2018, the reason why ARENA invested in our business is because of this large market potential. 40% of commercial rooftops cannot handle the weight or uplift of conventional glass panels. Installation. So in the Australian market, we've got two product categories. We have a product range called SMD. That comes with a thin 5.6 aluminium frame, which we can see down the bottom here. And that comes with a junction box either on the front or the rear. And we have a range of sizes, 175, 235, 295, and 355 watts. We have a second category called SMA, and that comes, our glass-free unit comes with a standard 35mm aluminium frame. So you're able to use a conventional railing system when mounting that panel. So we can see our version to the left of the screen with the junction box on the rear, and then a version to the right of the screen with our junction box mounted on the front of the panel. So SMA, that allows us to use our conventional mounting hardware. This product has an installed weight of 6.8 kilos per square metre. As mentioned, glass panels have an installed weight of 15 kilos per square metre. So that allows, that's still a significant reduction. This image is from a project in Germany. We're doing very well in Europe at the moment because a lot of buildings suffer snow load restrictions. Yes, the commercial building can take the weight of snow load, but it can't take the weight of snow load and solar. So it's an emerging market that we're unlocking here. So you can see this is a roll seam roof, which is popular in Germany. We've got standard clamps and standard rails, and then our panels are just installed as per your conventional mounting approach. And that was a 235 kilowatt system in Germany. Our new method of mounting solar panels is where we bond solar panels directly to the roof. So we remove all need for mounting hardware, and we use a structural grade silicon adhesive, and we're able to bond directly to the top of the roof. This has an extra benefit that allows us to get a really low profile, which negates any uplift issues, but also gives us our lightest weight installation. So we can install solar at 3.8 kilos per square metre. With this new installation method, we have to do a few new steps in there to accommodate this installation. So the installation is broken up into preparing the roof, spending a bit more time in setting out the array. But once the array is set out, we're able to lay the panels in significantly quicker than glass panels. Our panels now come with integrated earthing and pre-installed cable management. So roof preparation, we use an isopropic alcohol just to clean the surface and prepare the metal roof for bonding. You don't have to clean the whole roof, you only have to clean the areas where the silicon is applied. And with a simple spray bottle and mop, that can be done very efficiently and effectively. So it's important that now that we're bonding panels to the roof, we have to spend a little bit more time in just marking out the array just to make sure that we keep panels aligned and keep a nice even square array. When we use our rails, we have long rails that help to make this job a little bit easier. But in this, by removing the rail, we actually take 5 steps out of the installation process. So we're seeing that's one of the main efficiency gains. And a quick set out ensures that we keep a nice square array. Laying the panels, we recommend you purchase a cordless caulking gun. So most of the major tool manufacturers, Makita, Hilti, will also have an automatic caulking gun. So your impact drills, you can use the same batteries. That's an automatic silicon gun. You apply a bead in 5 to 8 mils, as you can see by the image to the left of the screen. We don't need silicon over the whole array or the whole panel. You only need silicon in strategic locations. So when we do clean the roof, you only need to clean the strips where you're applying the silicon. Then we lay the panel. Got a short little video here. Doesn't seem to be explain. Not to worry, well, we'll skip the video, and for those who request a copy of the slides, we can send a Dropbox video of how the silicon is applied. All our panels are stocked by One Stop Warehouse, come with integrated cable management and pre-installed earthing. So that means when we have our junction boxes on the top of the panel, we have a pre-installed duct to the right here, which meets the CEC guidelines, where we're mechanically protecting the junction boxes and the DC cable. When the ducts are installed, they are also installed with an earthing lug, and that allows us to run a single earth cable. That way you can have your continuous earth connection. So if you do need to remove a panel or uninstall a panel, you can also uninstall the earthing, and to make sure that the panel still complies with that continuous earthing rule. When we quick bond panels to the roof, we can't bond over screw lines. So we have to space the panels in between the screw lines. In this particular example here, the purlins were only spaced around 900 mm apart. For those with a keen eye, you can see the solar panels that we've used in this particular installation are only 4 cells wide. So we're able to, as I said, manufacture custom sized panels. In this particular installation, because we had the gap in between the panels, we had a standard aluminium angle that was purchased at your standard hardware store, and that was also installed in between the gaps to make sure we've got that mechanical protection in between each of the panels. And as you can see here, the duct also provides a convenient way to manage your earth and any DC return cables. If you're doing an installation, for example, on a clip lock roof or an insulated panel roof with no screws, we're able to butt these panels close together, and that gives us a really nice, neat cable finish there. So out of the 50 megawatts we've got installed globally, we're seeing a 40% reduction of time on roof. And that's because we're able to take 4 to 5 steps out of the installation process. We don't have to install clip lock clamps, L-feet, splice clips. You don't have to worry about your mids and end clamp. So we're able to really streamline and take a lot of those steps out of the process. A 295 watt panel weighs 5.5 kilos instead of 20 kilos. So now you can carry 2 or 3 panels and still be lighter than one glass panel. So that speeds up the distribution of panels on the roof by manual handling. And that's how we're starting to see a 40% reduction in time on roof. Also, it's an important point because our panels are super thin, we can get up to 20 kilowatts per pallet. So now for those regional installers, you have 2 pallets on the back of your ute, and now that's 40 kilowatts. So if you've got to do remote and regional installations, there's major savings there between in transport, and on your larger commercial systems, a lot less crane lifts. So that's how our pallets are packaged. So our quick bonding installation method has all been approved, certified, both by GAMCorp and approved by the CEC. Our quick bonding method has been certified to Win Region D at 30 metres high. A lot of conventional glass panels with conventional mounting systems cannot achieve Win Region D installation. The silicon we use has 2 main markets in glass curtain walls. So if you've been in a 50-storey building looking out the window, the glass that's held into the aluminium frame uses the same structural silicon that we use, and also in your car windscreen is also glued into place. So using silicon-based structural adhesives is quite common through other areas of the construction market. As mentioned, all our panels come with pre-integrated, pre-installed cable duct and pre-installed earthing. So when we bond panels to the roof, there's a lot less earthing and cable management. Panels can be mechanically removed if they need to. So if there's a warranty claim, just like if little Johnny smashes your car windscreen with a cricket ball, you don't throw out your car and get a new one. You just scrape off the silicone, the wire saw. You're able to cut the bead of silicone that's applied, and you're able to uninstall the panel. So, any questions?
Thank you, Thomas, for that comprehensive blueprint of the eArche technology panel. That was really awesome, and we learned a lot. So in summary, the eArche aims to maximize electricity technology density within the panel by minimizing the glass and other equipment that makes up the structure of the panel. We know it's more integrated look on roofs, so it's a very aesthetic piece of electricity generator, you could say. It's reputable investment from institutions highlights its agenda that it's a leading technology and has big potential in the market. And as you said earlier, 40% reduction in labor time on the roof, which is very beneficial for many companies and EPC contractors. It addresses a considerable gap, and there is about 5.5 gigawatts both in the combined in the Resi and CNI space. So there is definitely a lot of work to do with this panel, and the potential is great. Just quick comment on the polls. You guys answered very well. Majority of them are correct, you guys, but the first one regarding the weight density of the panels, it was close, but still majority of you answered correctly, so well done. And we have quite a lot of questions, Thomas, so, and they're good ones, so let's get started. I'll start with the comment box. Okay, so Brad Owens is asking if your cells are the same as normal mono-PERC cells, as you keep saying, what stops the cells from fracturing when they are flexed or bent? Also, how do you avoid hot spots when the panels are being flexed? The entire panel may not be producing power.
Yeah, so with the panels, they're semi-flexible. Our key differentiator is not so much around flexibility, it's about structural limitations. Because when we look at it, if we look out the window and we look at all our roofs, there's really not many curved roofs out there. So we're not going to get rich and retire servicing curved roofs. So it's structural limitations is our main point of difference. In terms of flex, the analogy I like to use to describe the flex is like mosaic tiles. It's not the cell themselves that flex, it's the gap in between the cells that flex. So if I've got a little sample here, I can't bend that, but it's as the panels get longer and longer, the small gap in between each cells allows the panels to bend. We've got numerous tests where we've shaken the panels, we've bent them, where we've done before and after. So for those who are interested, we can get into the details around other techniques or engineering innovations that come into our panel technology that mitigate the impact of micro cracks. When handling our solar panels, you have to handle them a little bit differently. To draw on another analogy, for those who are used to handling or been around a construction site in gyprock before, gyprock is a building product. You can be rough and ready. It bends a little bit, but if you handle the gyprock incorrectly, you'll break it. You can't stand on it. So if you do handle the product within its parameters, we go a long way to mitigate any of those micro crack issues.
Cool. Thanks. I hope that answered your question, Brad. And now Timothy Edwards has two questions. Number one is, what about the heat when directly glued to the metal roof? What's the derating like? And the second one is, can you bind it to a wall vertically?
So with heat, glass panels can only dissipate heat from the back sheet. As we know, glass is a great thermal insulator. So glass panels do need to be elevated off the roof because that's the only way the heat can get out. Our solar panels have no glass. Therefore, we're able to dissipate the heat from the top of the panel as well from the rear of the panel. Mono-PERC solar cells, we have the same heat derating as glass panels will. But the evidence that we have so far is that when we're installed on a roof, we're not seeing any of those losses in performance. Because our panels are significantly lighter, there's less mass. With less mass, there's less embodied energy. So when we do bond to the roof, we're not seeing any of that, that impact of heat and temperature loss. And again, for those who are interested, we've got 2 megawatts in Australia, all with monitoring. Our oldest system has been installed since 2016, so I'm happy to share that detailed data with the market when they want to get into that details. Walls, yes, that's a major market that we're able to look at. With our panel with a 5mm frame, we're able to screw through our panels, so we can screw fix our panels to a wall. And one of our partners in Victoria recently completed an eArche installation on a 30-story building in Docklands in Melbourne, where the plant room on the building, HVAC and all the boilers were covered in a steel structure, and our panels were fixed to the wall and the roof of that structure. So it's a 30 kilowatt system in Docklands that would never have been installed if it wasn't for our product. So yes, we can on facades.
Cool. Thank you for that, Thomas. Next question is, so sorry, Jeff and Martin, I believe your questions have been answered now about the thermal heating loss and reduced airflow. So Thomas just highlighted that the front of the panel is a very effective heat dissipator. So hopefully that answers your questions. Dieta Liebrich, sorry if I incorrectly pronounced. How do they compare in price with other panels?
So at the moment, there is a small premium for our product, and I guess the one-stop account managers can get into the details on product and pricing. But I guess the point here that we want to make is that we're not here to compete against glass panels. We've opened up new markets that glass panels cannot service. So if you have a commercial installation that doesn't have any weight issues or doesn't have any penetration or structural uplift issues, this is not the right product to solve those problems. Where you do have weight, aesthetics, uplift issues, and they can't install glass panels, this is where we can have a new market opportunity with no competition. So if you look at the turnkey installation cost, when you take in the premium for the solar panels versus the labour saving versus the racking saving, typically there should be about a 30 to 35% turnkey premium for our solution.
Cool. Next question is, so hopefully that answers your question. There is a bit of a premium, as Thomas suggested, but however, it is a very unique product and covers many other aspects normal conventional panels cannot. So I highly recommend probably contacting your account manager with One Stop, and they can give you a specific price.
But just on that point, that's why we really talk about the addressable markets. Our solar industry is extremely competitive at the moment. 4,000 CEC accredited installers. We're all fighting tooth and nail for glass panel sales. So by moving your product to eArche allows you to target new markets, open up opportunities that aren't flooded with competition, highly commoditized solar panels. So we're giving you solutions to problems that we've identified, and you can grow a business to open up new addressable markets that glass panels can't address. Cool.
Agreed with that, yeah. Tim McVeigh asking, can we cover the Opera House with it?
Well, after what happened with that, what's that horse racing Everest, where they advertised horse races on the Opera House, I probably wouldn't go that way. But yeah, definitely, this is like you're thinking. This is what we can do. We're giving the channel, the market, new innovative ways to deploy solar. Often talk about, here's our skin. Look how thin it is. can be manufactured to any shape. We're now giving the market a sense of creativity. How can this solar panel deploy? Where can we put this solar skin? So it's not about just slapping them on commercial roofs or mum and dad homes. It's about giving the channel new ways, new markets, new applications to get more solar on a roof. And just think about how a tree makes an energy. Photosynthesis. A tree doesn't have all its leaves facing 30 degrees north because that's the most efficient way of capturing the sun's energy. A tree puts its leaves wherever it can, at any angle, any orientation. Just capture as much sun. If I can get an hour of sunlight at this position, well, that's more energy for my tree. And that's sort of the vision that we have for our solar skin, is that we can turn any surface into a generator. How can we capture that energy? Working with One Stop with VPPs, how do we, create these virtual power plants where we can turn any surface? So it's about empowering the market to look for new surfaces to install solar on.
Indeed. As we've seen, the market has been carrying a very conventional way of producing energy from the conventional panels. So yeah, I really admire this vision from Sunman, and I believe this is a great way forward, innovating a new paved way of energy. So thank you for that, Thomas. Shailesh Kumar is asking, can you fix on a tile roof, and what is the warranty of the panels? I believe the warranty is pretty much the same, 12 years product, 25-year performance, correct, Thomas? Hello, you there, Thomas?
Sorry, Ramsey, it's I'm getting a bit of lag over the line here, but I caught the first part around tile installation. At the moment, we haven't spent too much time on a tiled roof solution. Typically, tiled roofs don't have weight issues, and typically, you can still penetrate a tiled roof. So, at the moment, we haven't gone down that path. So, our solutions at the moment are primarily for metal roofs in the industrial commercial sectors.
Cool. Okay, I think we shouldn't waste too much more time, so we make some time for Delta. Any remaining
But
questions?
just on a closing note there's thousands of questions, there's a lot of things to cover, and it's really hard with a 20-minute PPT to get into the weeds of all our installers' thoughts and comments. So please reach out to your One Stop account manager, and I'm happy to come out and do some joint visits with samples, and we can spend time in the channel. So reach out to your account manager, and I'd love the opportunity to go through this on a one-on-one basis.
Definitely, and don't hesitate to ask any technical questions too. We have a technical department here, myself, Jefferson, and Leo. So yeah, don't be shy and shoot any questions through. But yeah, as I said, any excess questions we'll answer at the very end. Now I'd like to start with Delta's presentation, and Shane Arnold from Delta would like to take it away.
Thanks, gents. Okay, I'm just going to present my screen here. If you can let us know once you can see that.
Loading. Mm-hmm. And there we are. Perfect.
Okay, great. So Delta is a Taiwanese company, and I'm just going to whiz through what corporate require us to present. I won't bore anyone with too many details. We were founded in 1971. Our founder, Bruce Cheng, who's still involved with the business, very much involved. You can hear from him from time to time. Started it with DC power supplies, and later on in life, he got more involved in renewable energy and more green credentials. So our focus in the business is mainly the renewable energy, EV charging, telco powers, industrial automation, displays, everything it takes to push towards a better environment. Greener, smarter together is his ethos. This is our footprint globally. So you may not know this, but Delta's main business isn't necessarily building products with their own name on it. We do a lot of OEM. We used to do ODM, where we would build other people's designs. Recently, we'd only build our own designs for other people. So Like a lot of companies, there's 175 sales offices globally. We have Sydney and Melbourne, and about to open Perth, where I'm now officially located. So we do have a lot of R&D, and our inverters and batteries that we'll talk about are all generally R&D'd out of Tainan in the south of Taiwan, and in our office in the Netherlands. One thing that I want to state very clearly from the beginning is our manufacturing is in Wuzhou. It is in China. It's in an automated factory. So I could probably hear a little bit of the groans coming through from your computers there, but I'll explain why it's not necessarily a bad thing. And yeah, I'll explain that in more detail. Delta, we're big into energy infrastructure, and everything you see here, we're involved with. And in Australia, we're going to really concentrate below the line on the consumption side of things. And this is containerized storage, which we acquired through Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, PCS, power conditioning systems, which, 100 kilowatt bidirectional inverters. We've got quite a few of them getting installed now in Australia. EV charging, very exciting space, and residential storage and batteries. Working with V2X, you're going to hear a lot about that as well in the coming future. We're really into the Internet of Things, and that's because we're heavily involved with UPS's data centers, street lighting, but the PV inverter and VPPs is what we're working towards. If you're ever moving around and you see any of this sort of equipment, building automations, food and beverage, we're all involved one way or another: medical equipment, imaging, machine automation, obviously renewable energy. Delta's involved one way or another. And for some case studies, Denmark, we've done a 75 meg there with our 50 kilowatt inverter. We are working on that particular inverter, so we'll see that in Australia soon. Thailand, the 50 kilowatt and 30 kilowatt on 100 megawatt. The 30 kilowatt is available in Australia and through One Stop Warehouse. And India, we have a big share in India, floating PVI installation here with our 1 megawatt central inverter. If anyone needs one of them, let me know. I've got them in stock. We do OEM a large amount of wind turbine PCSs and inverters. Not something that we're really focusing on from Australia. The energy storage and microgrid, I mentioned the 100 kilowatt bidirectional inverter with battery storage. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that happening very shortly. It is on the CEC list and it is AS4777 approved. Okay, and EV chargers. There are discussions with One Stop Warehouse around EV chargers. New Zealand's a big market for us. We're currently doing 25 kilowatt DC chargers. We do them in 50, 100, 150, 215 kilowatts, I think. The home 7 kilowatt, and we're releasing a 22 kilowatt for at home. And our ultra fast chargers where you can charge 4 cars at once. Due to our involvement in EVs, okay, and I'm not going to push too much on this, but if you pulled some electric motors out of common EVs, you'll find the Delta name on it. You'll find our inverters, our onboard chargers, and so forth are in there as well. Automation. So Delta invested in automating a lot of their manufacturing facilities. And a lot of these photos you'll see are what I've managed to sneak out of the factories, because we're moving towards full automation and moving away from handmade equipment. So internally, the joke is we make the robots that make the robots that make your inverter. And basically, as I said, here's some photos of our automation equipment and factories. So what you can actually see, you may not be able to see, there's a little faint yellow line on the floor here where the sushi trainers, we call it, come and load up the boards, and they enter in here, and down the other end of this production line, you'll see inverters come out of there. And just another couple of photos. We can see the technicians will load up the chipsets on the reels and the robots making the equipment. So we're working towards saying no to manual manufacturing and basically removing that handmade risk. So just touching on some full package here. So EV charging, PCS, battery storage, solar inverters. We're going to bring that whole ecosystem into Australia. So as you move forward in your endeavors, Delta can certainly support you in those areas. Onboard chargers, pretty much anything I'll show you is available in the public domain. So if you have a electric vehicle charging with a AC charger, it will come in through to this onboard converter, onboard charger, which converts it from AC to DC. And this one here you can get from Pacific Motors secondhand. It's a Model S onboard charger. And this actually was brought to my attention by a client rather than me knowing about it internally. So it's kind of interesting that we have some large companies using our products, including inverters for their, so I think this is the full Tesla house, which was Tesla car, Tesla solar roof, Tesla battery, when they were installing under Solar City, which are inverters manufactured by Delta under their own names, so our OEM product. I'm going to get down into a little bit more of things. So currently, what's here, what's coming, and I kind of like to engage people, and we can engage at the end of what do you need. So on the left here, we have our single phase product offerings, 3 kilowatt and 5 kilowatt inverter. We're going to talk about the 5 kilowatt today. On the right, we have our E5 hybrid. I really like this product. It's got some cool party tricks, and our DC coupled battery. So they come together. You can DC couple up and take advantage of STCs. But we will be releasing, I'd hope to have released it by now, but I'm not really happy with the testing as of yet. My engineer's really trying to break it. We haven't broken it yet, so we're working hard on that. But an AC coupled battery that will also be grid forming, so you can apply it to any AS4777 inverter. If the grid goes down, we will support the grid inverter during a blackout and frequency ramp it during the blackout. Not going to say what this is, but it's larger than a 5 kilowatt, and it's in the single phase part of the presentation. So you can use your imagination on that one. You'll notice that there's no MC4 connections, no AC plugs, and we've got conduit entry points, sides, bottoms, and rear, just letting you know. And we'll have some surprises coming larger in the 3-phase market in larger area, which we're kind of excited about. So 5 kilowatt single phase inverter, we're just going to focus on this today. And it's the H5A222, the previous model being the 221. So what's different, and what are we doing here? So we have finally incorporated a compliant DC isolator. It is lockable in the off position or open position, so you can actually put a padlock on it. We're still running dual tracker, 11 amp inputs, and it can take up to 550 volts and operate, but we can actually do a max of 600. Function port, what we call a function port. Is it functional? Well, inside that functional port is the consumption meter. So there's no need to, with this unit, to actually install a consumption meter inside the distribution board. And a lot of folks have been telling us that they're quite happy about that because there's no room in a distribution board to mount on the DIN there. It's a bit of a savior there. And that gives you 24/7 consumption monitoring, and you can export control with it as well. The comms interface, we have, this is going to tell us if we're connecting with Wi-Fi, if we've got earth faults, we're connected to the grid, and there's a sequence of flashes and so on, and you can reset the inverter. There is a button up the top, and that button is well out of the way to prevent any homeowners just randomly pushing buttons. And an AC connector, which is a Phoenix contactor brand. We'll talk about what is missing, and that is a screen, and we will be removing the screen from all models going forward. We are following that trend. Again, we may hear some groans coming from people about that. Personally, I'd probably like a screen, but we have made sure it is transmitting its own Wi-Fi hotspot. So if our demographic that doesn't have Wi-Fi connection, but they do have their tablet or smartphone, they can connect directly to the inverter and get up to the second, I think it's every 3-second update on what's going on. We have 2 heat sinks, the cast aluminium ones on either side, you can see on the bottom right-hand image here, and we've applied another heat sink, which is a bare aluminium one. And our main aim of that is to actually have the inverter heat that heat sink up, not necessarily for cooling, but to encourage airflow so that the cast heat sinks can get airflow out of it. So no cooling fans applied to this unit. So I will go through what's good in this product. So we are Wi-Fi standard connectivity, Wi-Fi power. The power meter is built in for your consumption and export control and your DC isolator switch. We will operate between -25 and +60. That's operating. That's not operating at 100%. What I will say is we start derating at the 45 degrees Celsius and we derate, we don't shut down. On the right-hand side here, we've given you a couple of full power MPPT ratings. So if you're in the 25 to 35 degrees region, we're good at the 240 to 500 volt DC, but at 280 to 450, you can get up into that 40 degrees area, which with the new 370 watt panels, it's perfect for it. Max input voltage, as I said, 600 volt. Our great little party trick with this, 35 volt DC startup, 30 volt shutdown. You can run it on one panel. You're not in the maximum power point voltage range, so I just want to explain that. And we've seen conversion efficiencies around about the 90 to 94% with 1 to 2 panels on it. And I'll go through a little bit more detail on where that's good, what you can approach some sales with. 11 amps per each tracker, 22 total, but we have a short circuit current of 15 amps. So you'll still be able to use your 370 watt panels, 2 trackers. Everything sort of is pretty standard. We have dropped the euro efficiency of this from the previous model. And the reason being, yeah, I know, right? But there's a reason for it. One, you've got to be honest with these things. You've got to be truthful. The fact is, running a power meter on board, it does take some electricity. So we're not going to be able to 5 volt DC startup. We can probably generate, it's up for argument, and we can have a discussion about it. We could generate some more electricity to offset that. So just talking about ultra low startup voltage, what we have here, this is real world on the right hand side here. This is 2 330 watt panels in January. It was quite a hot day. I think it was 38 degrees in Melbourne, probably the only day it got up that hot. But what we experienced was on a 90 meter cable run, we were getting 92% conversion efficiency of the DC that we got. So 660 watts of panels on a hot day, just over 500 watts of production. So with the cable run and voltage drop, etc., I think we did pretty well. They've got a little picture of the house on the top right-hand side here. We've got 2 5 kilowatt inverters, 3 panels on our east, 2 on our west, heap on the north, heap on the south. So one way of designing it, I suppose. Real world situation in WA over the Christmas holidays. Went with one of our longest serving users of Delta in Australia. Client didn't want any panels on his west roof because pool heating was coming in. Didn't want panels around his hot water system. Wanted some symmetry and servicing room. We quoted the H5A, not needing external isolator. And the customer said, and we basically said, let's put 2 panels on the north roof. And the customer's like, look, we can only do that with end phase. We made a gentleman's agreement. If it didn't work, we'd have to sort it out for him. He was extremely happy. There was some price savings. Would he have made more electricity if he had used micro inverters? Probably, but would the cost have been mitigated? I don't know. But the customer's very happy, and the conversion's working really well. I do keep an eye on that every now and then. So talking about the internal meter design, so you don't need to put in any other meters like we were explaining, and you can do partial and zero export. So let's say, for example, you're installing the 5 kilowatt inverter on this house and they needed an export limit down to 2 kilowatts, 1 CT clamp in the inverter and set your export limit to whatever you want. You could set it to 0 if need be. What if we add a second inverter? Great. So because they come together in a plant on the app, you'll see this purely as one plant. There's 10 kilowatts of generation. But if it was still export limited to 2 kilowatts, or even 5 kilowatts. We're seeing a lot of trend where what people are doing is if they have to export to 5 kilowatts, they put one CT clamp on and set that inverter to 0. And that's not really great. You can lose a lot of production that way, depending on where the sun is at the time. So what we suggest is if you put 2 CT clamps, 1 per each inverter, and set the export limit of each inverter to 5 kilowatts, they'll sort of ramp up and down together to make sure the maximum generation is achieved. So you're buying 2 CT clamps, 2 CT cables. They come in a 10 meter or a 30 meter length for those long runs if you need to. And we have methods of longer if you need to want to have a discussion about that. So again, we have cloud monitoring of this as well. And you don't have to look at each inverter independently. You can look at them as a single, go into that, and you can look at them individually. What if we're doing this, we've got a 3-phase house, or I've got a, say for example, a 10 meter run, and I don't want to trench a cable? Delta do have wireless export control options here. The gentleman in Victoria, I'm pretty impressed with his installation, Anthony Talk from Rams Elect in Vic. And he told me, he said, Shane, I've got about 8 to 10 meters to transmit, to do some export controlling, and it's a 3-phase house. How far will this go? And I said, well, you know, 8 meters short. Turns out it was around about 40 meters, and with a high gain antenna, he made it work, and there was a lot in the way. But we have this as an option, and the team at One Stop Warehouse can price that for you. But essentially, the inverters communicate with this, the product called the DC1, and then this device will transmit to the router. It also does interlocking for 2-phase properties. So should you need to shut one inverter down, if the other one has got an issue, it will do that as well. And this product is used in Europe on our 125 kilowatt inverter, up to, I think, 36 inverters to control it. So we've utilized that in Australia for this method as well. So partial and zero export is pretty simple. Like we said, using the app, it works on a percentage. It's 4 steps. We are releasing a new app and it reduces it down to 3 steps. So that will be quite easy for you to do that. And we have an FAQ page for installers and sales teams, which will explain on in-picture how to do that. I want to spend a bit of time talking about the DC isolator. We have all the certification for it that is available. Not only that, it is on the eArche list, and we have a DC isolator declaration as well. We have had 2 inspectors in Victoria defect it because they weren't aware of it being on the eArche list, and all this information can be at your disposal. It's pretty quick to sort out. It is small, it is light, 12 kilos, pretty simple to install. The other thing I want to say is our inverters, as far as installation is concerned, will start up and allow you to connect to the Wi-Fi on AC power alone. You don't need DC from your panels. So an electrician can install this, get it working on AC only. As soon as it gives it AC, connect it to the homeowner's Wi-Fi, and once the DC comes down, it's all ready to go. So it's quite a handy feature, and I'll talk about connecting to Wi-Fi in a short moment. No fans, no noise. We've had 1 noise complaint, and that was the inverter was installed on the back of a bedroom wall, and they had very high grid voltage in the morning, and it was turning on and off, on and off, on and off. And once they resolved the grid voltage issue, that never gave them any issue after that. But it must have been a very light sleeper to deal with that. But it is IP65, outdoor installation. We are requesting that inverters are installed in the shade, permanent shade. I think it's smart for yourself to do that anyway, but that's now a requirement of the Delta H5822 to be installed in permanent shade, and you'll get a much longer life out of your product. This here is probably more for feedback. We've ran some prototypes on this where we've made a wall plate for the cables to go into the wall for those wanting to put into the cavity. I'd be interested in getting any thoughts over the coming weeks if we should look at adding this as a product. We've put about 20 in the field, good response, but some have decided that they wouldn't need it. But just a nice way to neaten things. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. The monitoring cloud, we can get a lot of information out of these devices. And I'm being told very shortly that we will have over-the-air servicing available with it as well, which includes changing your grid voltage protection settings and over-the-air firmware updates, so you can do it from your desk. Taiwan realized very quickly when they came over for All Energy last year, and we did a 6-hour drive in Queensland to change some grid voltage settings. They realized real quick that it'd be real handy if we could do that remotely. So we're going to be rolling that out quite soon. Everything you can do on the web portal is available to be done on the web app as well. Generally, as a retailer, you should have your own master account. Your installers should commission this into onto your master account, and then you share with the homeowner's account. So effectively what we've tried to do, and I'm probably going to upset some salespeople here, but you really need to look after your installers on site. The last thing they need to be doing at the end of the day is getting a client to download an app, create an account, what's their app passwords, etc. So this is where I go straight into this. Salespeople, help your client and your installer out and have your client ready for a smooth transition at the time of sale. So the client is awesome and they've agreed to buy solar from you with a Delta. It makes them pretty smart. At the time of sale, get them to download the solar app, My Delta Solar app, get them to create an account and note the email address that they use. Once, just advise the client, once the system's online, it's passed checks via HQ, you'll then share the data. Once your master account has seen the system working, you can then share it to the client's account. And you say, look, it will be there within 30 minutes. The fact is that it's there straight away, but if you under-promise, you over-deliver. So a couple of things. This is the end of the show here. So it's an ultra-low startup voltage design. So we have a bit of a laugh that it's probably the world's largest microinverter. Built-in power meter installation cost savings are there. Simple app and easy setup. I've got to say the app was never at the beginning easy, and we've made some great progress. I think if you were to take on Delta and add it to your product line, there'll be a transition period, but the general feedback we're getting is a lot better than 2017, 2018 when we launched the app. Maintenance and installation friendly, easy AC install, being that it's a plug method. Low noise, we say up to 20 decibels, but it's a lot lower. It's just the minimum we can put on it. And the My Delta Solar Cloud monitoring. We will be creating an instruction value around an instructional video rather on how to connect these inverters to a homeowner's Wi-Fi prior to going to site. We've been testing this with a client of ours, and essentially he has the SSID of the client's internet, and prior to going to site, we enter those details into the inverter. So when the installer goes to site with Mr. and Mrs. Jones inverter in the install kit, as soon as they power it up, it will find their Wi-Fi and connect. So it's been working out really well that the installer doesn't even have to connect the inverter to the Wi-Fi. It's pre-shared. So stay tuned on that one, and we'll have an instructional video once we've done our testing. So a lot there. My details, I'm big on the LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Mobile numbers there and my email, and happy to receive calls and questions, obviously.
Awesome, Shane. Thank you for that amazing, comprehensive insight into Delta's background and their technologies. Just to recap, everybody. So I'd like to say that Delta has a multi-diverse range of professions, specializing in renewable energy, telecoms, EV, Internet of Things, data infrastructure systems, and many, many more. So you know Delta's pedigree can be trusted. Furthermore, Tesla utilization of their inverters via the Solar City further emphasizes this point. And not only Tesla, many more reputable automakers, electronic corporations, and yeah, many, many more. So it was good to see an exciting teaser, Shane, of your new model coming out. So excited for that. Looks like it has some cutting edge technology there. Yeah, and also your internal meter design is pretty unique, and your optimized the export solutions is very handy and good for maximizing yield, because in some scenarios, if you set it up wrong, you can lose generation, as you said.
Yeah.
And it's really great that you take initiative to making the commissioning process seamless and intuitive to make sure that everything is set up properly on the portal. And yeah, and admire making the app more user-friendly. So great stuff. And really,
I'll just touch on the app. Delta realized that they have removed the screen, which is the traditional interface. And when you remove that interface, you have to replace it with something equal or better. And we're certainly working as hard as we can, but being a global company around, servicing the whole global market, there's a lot of different requests. Japan, for example, they don't need a lot of information. They would just want the basics, but in Australia, we want more and more and more. And I've seen some of the new skins that they're working on, and it's going to get a lot better. We're pretty excited about that. But Australia certainly leads the charge in demanding more from that app. And anyone that wants to send me emails with requests, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. I really love receiving proper emails because that's what our headquarters pay attention to.
Yeah, right, exactly. So good stuff. Shall we go on to the questions now?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Timothy Edwards, once again, is asking, how does Delta have a plan for 50 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt hybrid storage inverter?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So hybrid storage inverter. Okay. I need to get you the brochure for our 100 kilowatt PCS. So it's 100 kilowatt inverter, so it's bidirectional inverter, and it's AC coupled. So that's where we're at right now. So it's going to be 2 stages, battery bank, 100 kilowatt PCS, and then you use our 30 kilowatt inverter in groups of 3 to reach 100 kilowatts. And to be honest, you don't actually even need to use the Delta inverters with it, because essentially it creates a microgrid. I can't show you the roadmap right now. I'm being told I can, but I just want to get more secure dates on when it's going to happen. I don't want to be showing something I can't deliver on. But 50, 80, and 100, and I'm going to try and aim for, I think 75 will be the sweet spot, right? Because 75 divided by 0.75 gives you bang on 100 kilowatts. So you can use your STCs, etc., and not go into LGC territory. So yeah, I've seen the renderings and the drawings for that models. Yes.
Awesome. And I think there's one last question: is what's the off-grid options, if any?
Right. Okay. So Delta owns a company called Eltec. Eltec has an office in Sydney, and they have a fair bit of off-grid equipment available because they use it for the telco power supplies. I think in off-grid, we're going to leave it to Selectronic and Victron and Sunny Island to play in that field. Those guys are really good. We have worked on our grid code settings for Victron, and we actually have people using our 30 kilowatt 3-phase with Victron off-grid inverters. And there's a couple of people up in Queensland using our 5 kilowatt H5A222 with the Victron products. And we've got, and I just put a 2.5 on my auntie's house. It's got Victron, and the ramping works really, really well. And I'd love to integrate more with the likes of Selectronic and Victron and so on. Look, we have the E5 hybrid that we spoke of before, and there's a lot of people installing it in what I'd call standalone. For those people that really understand the limitations of the inverter and the product, they go okay with it, but I discourage it because it's not an off-grid system, okay? It's not an off-grid. You could probably use it for standalone and a weekender. We've got a guy in Western Australia who's been living off-grid with one for 2 years, but he knows how to use it. And he actually has a generator that if you shut down the PV panels, he can charge and it syncs and so on, but it is not designed for that.
Yeah, so short answer, no, but if you understand the design of your particular system and you couple it with a generator, then you can essentially create an off-grid solution.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Gareth Duggan is asking, do you have the ability to DC charge the battery with clipped energy?
So are we talking about the E5 hybrid inverter with the battery, Gareth? Are you saying if I've got 6.6 kilowatts of panels and normally it'll be clipping down to 5 kilowatts, your 1.6 can go to the batteries? If that's your question, then yeah, the extra energy will be, it's DC coupled, so it goes straight to the battery.
Okay, cool. Yep, he just said yes. So
okay, cool. Yeah, so we've seen the E5 inverter making 6.6 kilowatts of energy. Only 5 kilowatts is going to the AC, and the 1.6 is going into the batteries itself. So it's just redirecting it. It's not going through a conversion. Yeah.
Right. And he's also mentioning, can you oversize this inverter to 8.5 kilowatt?
Okay, E5. We've got a policy inside Delta, and as long as you stay within our voltage and our amps, do what you want. You can go as high as you want, you can. So early days when that first unit first came out, know someone who's got 190 watt panels on it. It was a race before they got delisted from the CEC at the time. I think he's up around about 9.4 kilowatts using those. That E5 actually has a good little party trick as well. If you're not going to use the battery straight away, you can, and we're seeing a lot more inverters come in line with this now. That inverter can deliver solar energy during a blackout without a battery. And I've got some pretty average videos I've made showing that, where I've microwaved my lunch and I've charged an EV with it during a blackout without a battery, just from the sun. So it can do that. One thing to be mindful of that though is inrush currents will trip these inverters out. Water pumps are well known for it, where you have a 1.2 kilowatt water pump, they'll inrush at about 7 kilowatts and trip the inverters out. So again, that's kind of like that whole standalone living. You've got to be aware of what loads you're using.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much. That was really informative and enjoyable presentations from both you guys. So thanks again. And thank you for the attendees for staying throughout the duration of the webinar. Apologies in advance for going a little bit over time, but you know, when you're having too much fun, why would you want to stop? Okay, so I think we'll end it there because we've already gone over by 17 minutes, but keep in mind, I have a record of all these questions and I'll download it and create a follow-up email answering any remaining questions. So rest assured, they'll be answered. And yeah, CPD points, they'll be processed. So probably take about 1 to 2 weeks. So yeah, you can sit tight for those too. Before we go, Thomas, please come back on the video. Any final words, guys, before we head off?
Go on, Thomas, up to you, mate.
Yeah, not for me. Just we didn't get to as many questions as we like, just with time limitations. But please reach out to your account manager, and I'm happy to have one-on-one time with everybody and get into a lot of those questions that I didn't get to. Sure.
Likewise with me, guys. So yeah.
And anyone wants to reach out with me on LinkedIn and use the message service. So I'm based in WA. I work Melbourne hours and WA hours as well. So it seems that my day is pretty long, but anyone that's sort of communicated with me before, shoot me any questions online. If you've got my number details from earlier or email, happy to take questions. Love it actually. So yeah, hit us up.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I think we'll end it there. Beautiful.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
I got some help. It's bothered me a lot.
Yeah.
I don't need your opinion.
You finish off